Here for the weekend, and I'm glad. My colleagues frown on the slackness of my parental tether, but my son's earned his freedom. At 17, he's old enough to look after himself, and he certainly doesn't want interference from two people who haven't proven themselves any more capable of managing their own lives than his peers. I have always been exceedingly careful to hide the damage done by my own hand. The stigma of the crazy label was a strong enough deterrent to keep my activities a secret. Maybe if my grandparents had paid better attention to me, or been less dismissive of the mixed-up mixed girl they'd brought home, maybe if I'd been a less convincing liar, they would have seen the marks. But people often fail to see what's right in front of them, more so when they are elderly and willfully blind to the devil's handiwork upon their own. I managed to finish high school with a high enough GPA to earn a scholarship to Tufts University. I was 17 when I started college, 19 when I met Lance, and 22 when we married, the year after graduation. I liked college. I thrived in the rigorous program and stopped seeing black bugs skittering around the corners of rooms and the shadows of dogs slinking beneath the furniture. Stopped feeling the floor shift and buckle beneath my feet. And then I was a young bride marrying the most handsome professor at Tufts, a Rhodes Scholar and a generous man. All the girls said so. All the girls. Hadn't I been warned? Dearest Sarah, the only one I ever allowed to meet the gruesome spirits of my dark heart. Sarah the fairest, too coolly blonde and aggressive for Lance, wanted to rescue me from folly. But young girls in love are stubborn as mules and deaf as posts to warnings from those more clear-headed than they. For hadn't I been nubile as a nymph, bright-eyed and gleaming when we met? One of many glittering baubles from which Lance might choose, I was dazzled by his attention, having had only one boyfriend before him, the requisite summer romance terminating in heartbreak. I knew it forbidden. Our late-night dinners at fancy hotels in Cambridge crossed a line. Believing myself unique, I ignored the whispers. His first marriage to another graduate student when he was earning his PhD was brief. 2 years at most before he fell out of love with her and ended it. But I'd held on to him, hadn't I? At my wedding, Sarah had pressed an envelope stuffed with $100 bills into my hand and whispered, "A leopard can't change its spots." She hugged me and slipped out the door, a bottle of my champagne in her hand. That was the end of our friendship, the best I'd ever had. But I had Lance, didn't I? He was supposed to be enough. Our move to Philadelphia when Hackett was 2 came as a profound relief. I started work on my own PhD, possessed of a naive expectation that a geographic cure would squash all the little crawlers of doubt that skittered around in my mind at night. For the most part, it had. But lately they'd been back, persistent as roaches, as glib as serpents' tongues. They say, love is not a cup of sugar that gets used up. But it is. Spoonful by spoonful, grain by grain, the greedy, the needy, and the hungry consume it and demand more until the bowl is empty. Then they run away, jonesing for a fix from another source. Each betrayal, every insult or injury depletes the loving cup and leaves the holder bitter. It's a bitterness I can taste, and it sits on my tongue like the foulest medicine. I wake to an empty bed. Silence but for the faint hum of the appliances. Lance has already gone to the university to teach morning classes, and hopefully my son has gone to school. The doorbell rings through the empty house like storm wind, startling me.